chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems. Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this, and this, and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems. Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this, and this, and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems. Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this, and this, and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today.
They want you always. always. Always the apple for life. They want kill always. They want kill always.
Good evening. Welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news Untold stories. I am Oni Opala. Let's begin. The presidential election in France is a few days away. Will the stakeholders be considering a candidate that will reinforce French foreign policy and hegemony in Africa, or someone that will reconsider the harshness of French imperialism in Africa? That is on one side of the heat of tonight's show. Unconfirmed report has it that close to 40 traditional rulers, chiefs, and foreigners are being forced to participate in a conference ongoing in Paris. How they got there is a story for another day. This intelligence report says that the objective of authorities sign a treaty that purportedly will seal the fate of Ambazonia and dash away every hope of an independent Ambazonian. Meanwhile, French, Cameroon, and its enablers are working so hard not only to dismantle the self-defense apparatus of the struggle, but also to ensure normalization. At the time we were compiling this report, we were informed that the Amazonia 3 region geopolitical setup is their next target. This is how intense our report will be tonight. But before we even begin, let's take the prime headlines.
Prime headlines. At Presbyterian Church in Iyeji of Momo County, On the 3rd of April 2022, military thugs from neighboring La Republique du Cameroon opened fire on parishioners as they worshipped. The president of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, in response to carnage in Bui, has shown unwavering determination against occupational forces and enablers of the struggle. Daybreak in Ambazonia. Amba World Draft, the final battles, the conviction, many Ambazonians. It would appear La Republique du Cameroon is plotting to neutralize the design of Ambazonia's 3 geopolitical zones. Unconfirmed reports have it that France now seeks to lobby Ambazonian traditional rulers as a Liverpool are finally on the verge of agreeing a new contract with Salah.
Sincerest apologies from all of us here from ABC Amba TV. The news is coming a bit behind schedule, but we are here now. The news begins. What we have seen in this past 5 years of senseless war in Ambazonia doesn't exist. Babies fried in hot palm oil, children shot on their way to school, humans burnt alive while they are sleeping, traditional rulers assaulted, just name it. Then you will begin to wonder what happens in another year or two if the war persists and the Swiss negotiations tarries. Let's pause for a while and think about that. Now, that aside, our people has been abandoned and left to suffer. And so we must ensure we get liberated now. Joining President Sako to win this war is the best and the right thing to do. Let's get into the story. Star Smart reports.
Before we get into the story of the unimaginable and irresponsible behavior of the colonial military in Yenji on Sunday, it is important to highlight that the colonial administration has been very insensitive in the home front. Let us just examine a few aspects. Reports have that inhabitants of Mile 6 in Quain in Bamenda, Mezam County say they have been without potable water for over a month now. The absence of rainfall is also believed to have exacerbated the water scarcity, with no taps flowing in the whole neighborhood. They say they have had to depend on a good Samaritan who had given them free access to his borehole water source for people to fetch. Local authorities in the region so far have remained mute to their demand as evidence of a system that has failed. That aside, the colonial administration is not only inflicting pain on the people, the city of Bamenda has been abandoned for a while. Observers say that this most probably could be one of French Cameroon's ploy to inflict pain on the already suffering people of Bamenda city in particular and the entire Ambazonia as a whole. Streets have been dilapidated, more than 500 villages razed, companies destroyed, the economy has simply been on a constant decline. Then you begin to wonder what happens in another year or two if the war persists and the Swiss negotiations tarry. Sunday morning was almost a repeat of the Bali incident of last year, where bloodthirsty forces of occupation of La Republique de Cameroon would spray live waters on congregants. At Presbyterian Church in Yenji of Momo County on the 3rd April 2022, military thugs from neighboring La Republique de Cameroon opened fire on parishioners as they prayed. From the amateur video that has gone viral on social media, you could literally see congregants lying on the uncemented floor during worship time. What we have not seen during these 5 years of the senseless war in Ambazonia doesn't exist. Babies fried in hot palm oil, children shot on their way to school, humans burnt alive while they are sleeping, name it. If this is not the full manifestation of the master calculation to annihilate people and to open their land, then what is it?
As Ambazonians persecute this struggle, it is understandable that not everyone will be on board on the same wavelength. Blacklegs and Netherlands have been the forces to contend with in spite of colonial war in Ambazonia. It's even more difficult to comprehend what some of these individuals hope to benefit on a wrong run. We have seen people fight against what normally they should stand for. Then you would want to ask, what are their objectives? What do they plan to achieve at the end of the day? Whatever their plans may be, the president, Dr. Sacco, has proven to be focused, readily escalating firepower, re-strategizing and redoubling to protect his people against all enemies of Ambazonia, and enablers are not excluded. There is an examination of the attack in Mogamo and situation in Bui over the week that almost happened simultaneously, and Star Smart has the details.
The President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikome Sacco, has promised hard times to occupational forces, enablers, and all those terrorizing our innocent, unarmed civilian populations. In a release issued late last week, President Sacco said firepower will redouble on the home front to speak burning calls, increasing pressure on the occupiers and the enablers to flee our land if they won't bow to the negotiation table to discuss terms of separation, especially the Swiss-led process. The president assured the population of Mogamo local government area and those of Bouy County, who in the most part have been infested by the La République de Cameroon's ADF, which has been and remains a big liability and setback to the Ambazonia restoration quest. That the days of the latter are numbered, as the interim government he heads will stop at nothing in silencing those terrorizing, intimidating, killing, maiming, raping, and looting our innocent population. Every bona fide Ambazonia is aware of many innocent souls they have killed, including true restoration fighters. After Mogamo, flabbergasted by the resilience of the ARS here, Ayaba chose AGOF-C, ADF, and La République de Cameroon terrorist groups extended their diabolical tentacles to Ngaketunja and Bouy counties with La République de Cameroon's blood money, using a certain Capo Daniel to compromise a hitherto dreaded General No Pity, hiring him to disband the famous marine forces of Mbambalang and the renowned Bouy warriors. AGOF-C, ADF, and LRC terrorist groups set confusion using blood money not for the sake of liberating homeland, but for ego to weaken the firepower that was in 2021 at its optimum poised to chase the enemy out of Ambazonia. The Awing farmer allegedly shot by Ayaba Cho's AGOF-C, ADF, and La République de Cameroon's terrorist group is just one in 1,000. This is terrible and unfortunate, given that a timely intervention from those cruel health workers at St. Mary could have saved his life. It is no longer a secret as to who ADF is and its vision and mission: to destabilize the forces, kill the struggle, and auction Ambazonia to the La République de Cameroon for all-time slavery. Medical ethics thrown to the dogs. Why should St. Mary Hospital take instructions from cruel colonial military? This is just one of the reasons that made Doctors Without Borders and other humanitarian NGOs to pack out of Ambazonia.
According to the Bui security team, since the creation of the so-called Unity Warriors, they have always been stirred against Bui warriors. It would appear that has been their only mission from the onset. The Bui security team highlighted that getting rid of all strong Bui warriors, especially Field Marshal Sobu, is their main objective. They insinuated that could have been ADF disunity warriors take full control of Bui County and allow no mercy for one and indivisible Cameroon. We have heard voice recordings of ADF warlords affirming these happenings and instructing fighters on the home front in this regard. Now we know fully well that the interim government has French Cameroon to deal with on one hand and Ambazonia warlords on the other hand. The enemies have not hidden their intentions, but it has now been uncovered that they have packaged their strategies under the canopy of the Unity Warriors. While we may not have strategies of the IG to give you, we can at least analyze what has been said. The IG is confident that Lava Storm 3 and Amber War Draft Award 2020 will suffice. Why Amber War Draft? Stay smart. Talk to us, please.
If Amazonia is the vehicle of political salvation, victory, then the interim government is that engine of hope powered by a sacred fuel of patriotism constantly being distilled by the fighting spirit of the people. The world, in its contempt of silence, acknowledges the valiant and gallantry spirit with which ordinary Ambazonians defend their identity against the terror and horror perpetrated by French-backed expansionist and occupationist regime in Yaoundé. It has been gossiped out of foreign corridors of power that the Ambazonia's patriotism is lighting up islands of courage in the African continent. It should not be doubted that the battlefield success of the Ambazonia Restoration Forces against France's most assisted French Cameroon's military served as a piece of inspiration to victories recorded in Mali, Guinea, etc., where the people are taking back their countries from more than a century of French control. Ambazonia, be proud of who you are, what you have done, and what you're about to accomplish as a people. The world marvels at your audacity, and humanity cannot be more prouder in the sacrifices of a race of courage. Realities during this war of independence teaches that every time Ambazonia has faced the wall, and whenever the back of an Ambazonian is on the ground, something inexplicable happens. A quick and complete turnaround of fate is engineered in ways that dismiss the bet of science. However, there is no comfort until all efforts yield the deserved victory. So, there's still that one move, that all-important step, that crucially, that giant strike, that most decisive engagement and highly dependable undertaking to solidify Ambazonia's victory against French Cameroons. As a reminder, in the days of Nera 9, darkness took over the land and the people's joy was blighted in fear and despair. But one Ambazonian patriot, distinguished in comradeship, restored hope to Ambazonia. When adversity struck, this time more viciously by way of a power tussle, a compromised Ayub Tabe tried to mislead the international community with a sack letter. It took the stewardship of one Ambazonia to restore hope in the people. When armies of enablers consumed in jealousy sought to overshadow the revolution's cause with plumes of darkness, APNC was the Juju house. But again, an Ambazonian, David, killed the Goliath of hatred. Even fresh in our memories, when coup plotters unleashed the dominions of hell armed with political weapons of hatred, it was the conscience of one Ambazonia which shut door against this evil conquest. That Ambazonia who has never failed in his sacred duty of leadership is President Samuel Sako. That Ambazonia who is an embodiment of the people's sacrifice and faith in the leader of the interim government. Today, more determined, fearless, and accomplished, President Samuel Sako has decided it's time to equally unleash the righteous power of truth and hit the enemy with all arsenals of hope. It's just about the right time to go for the crown of victory. It's just the moment of greatness to throw everything against the enemy. It's certainly the hour of righteousness to shine the light of political salvation. It's that period in the calendar of success to engage opportunity with every resources of a lifetime experience. The here and now matters the most. What we do or do not do today shall define who we really are, not just tomorrow, but beyond. Therefore, Ambazonians, charge yourself, intoxicate yourselves with pride, scandalize a passion for victory, if you may, and let's outrage the enemy with our daring spirit. In a few weeks, the Amba War Draft shall be commissioned for 2022-2023 with a special theme. It's that time to think about Ambazonia, believe in Ambazonia, love Ambazonia, be Ambazonia, and hope Ambazonia. Of course, as a people, we can succeed in this without paying the ultimate price. This is the hour of sacrifice, and let Ambazonia weigh on your voices, shoulders, and pockets by measure of your blessings and capacity. This very much is a prelude to Camille, the Amba war draft, and to get us drafting in the spirit as the home front desperately awaits manifestation and not manipulation of Ambazonian patriotism. This is what Undaunted ABC Amber News crew has been able to put together, in high anticipation for the award draft 2022.
Governing strategy during this liberation phase of the Ambazonian struggle has taken French Cameroon unawares. Cameroon is currently employing and attempting to apply its obvious dirty political tactics to dismantle this tested and proven framework. Unpreachable sources have revealed that during a CPDM meeting held on the first day of April 2022, which included La République de Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration, Atanganji, they discussed the resolutions arrived at the just concluded ASSC2. From their findings, they admitted that the Washington, D.C. meeting is having a positive impact on the people at the home front, especially the carving of what they called Northwest, Southwest into 3 zones, the Atlantic, Midland, and Savannah zones, respectively. As such, they resolved to come up with something to counter it. Let's listen to Star Smart again.
After serious brainstorming, according to our trusted sources, they arrived at the following, basically to counter the carving of Ambazonia into 3 zones. The more divisions and subdivisions have to be created in the days, if not weeks ahead, in what they continue to call Northwest and Southwest regions. One of these subdivisions, which will become a full division, is the present Santa subdivision. The so-called Santa division will have Pinyin as a subdivision, and the other is Awing Ballingham, on where the headquarters of the Awing Ballingham subdivision should be located. A majority suggested Awing, but the Santa colonial mayor, who is also the phone of Ballingham, argued that as mayor, the headquarters of their Awing Ballingham subdivision should rather be but in his Ballingham. He exclaimed that he can't be mayor, things are coming and he has nothing for himself or his people. He further argued that there are no Amber fighters in his village, whereas the phone of Awing is harboring fighters that even burned down his palace. Meanwhile, La République de Cameroon's MP for Santa, Simon Kamase, a son of Awing, has asked the phone of Awing to immediately provide land for an administrative site for eventual construction of the office of Divisional Officer, DO. The phone of Awing is yet to do anything in that light. During this meeting, measures were arrived at to lure more fighters, especially those of Awing, to surrender and join forces with elites for the development of Awing. 7 fighters had expressed their willingness to drop their guns and embrace peace for the development of Awing and the subdivision. It should be noted that the present driver and bodyguard of Mr. Simon Kamase, La République de Cameroon's MP for Santa, is an ex-fighter. He is the one at the forefront of convincing fighters to drop their guns and surrender. In course of this meeting, the MP, in their usual modus operandi, said the Yaoundé regime has promised to build a 60-store market in Awing. He and his likes hope that the ARF will fall for their shameless promises of laying down their arms, and so will pick up employment during the so-called construction of Awing market. Ambazonians of Awing extraction are not foolish and haven't forgotten the promise President Paul Biya made during his first visit in Bamenda in 1983, that he was going to personally supervise the tarring of the ring road, among other promises. While they keep dilly-dallying, we will keep arming the ARF so they smoke La République de Cameroon out of Amazonia sooner than later. The Fawns and Chiefs don't have any local standee to embark on such dangerous ventures, for these are treasonous acts punishable by Ambazonian law. Any Fawn or chief colluding with any colonialist will only have himself to be blamed. Let what happened to the Fawn of Bambalang be an eye-opener to any Fawn or chief. No one needs to be warned severally. Above all, let the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, under the stewardship of Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, send out a very strong warning to anyone, be he a fawn or chief, to desist from trying to tamper our God-given land. We have been able to compile this report with the help of Ambazonia pro-independent campaigner writing from Adelaide, Australia, by name Juan Atso Atse. He's an Ambazonian. And he says, "Long live Ambazonia, short live the war."
The rumors of France inviting traditional rulers from Ambazonia for whatever reason is not surprising to us. Their objectives are neither strange nor new. But with this in mind, you begin to ask several questions. Now let's ask ourselves, why are ex-colonies in Africa so important to France? Emmanuel Macron was the shooting star of the French election campaign in 2017. He gave the impression at the time that he wants to change France's policy towards its former colonies. During his trip to Africa, he has admitted to colonialism was a part of French history, a crime against humanity and truly barbaric. In February 2017, on a visit to Algeria, Macron said in his words, "We must face up to his part of our history and apologize to those who were at the receiving end." His words. His remarks were greeted with cries of indignation in France, and he quickly backpedaled, returning to a more traditional interpretation of France's Africa policy. The question as to whether it was just another political talk and if Macron actually achieved what he promised is a discussion for another day. For now, the presidential election in France is a few days away. Will the stakeholders be considering a candidate that will reinforce French foreign policy and hegemony in Africa, or someone that will reconsider the harshness of French imperialism in Africa? Stay smart. There are elections forthcoming in just a few days, and we are receiving widely spreading unconfirmed report of about 38 traditional rulers from Ambazonia being cornered by France in Paris. If these be true, in combination with the upcoming election, how will the outcome affect the political atmosphere in the Cameroons?
Only, first of all, it is important to state that the former British Southern Cameroons, today Ambazonia, was never a colony under France. The botched decolonization process, French Cameroon's invasion of Ambazonia in 1961, empowered by France, the war in Ambazonia today, and the eminent silence of France, coupled with the alleged attempt to corrupt Ambazonian chiefs, only reveals one vital thing: French aggression and willingness to slacken its policy in Africa. The French presidential election, which begins from 10th of this month, could be of some concern to the African states webbed in the French hegemony. Owing to the situation in Mali, the winner has the daunting task of reviewing policy on Africa, as the former colonies still play a significant role in French national life. France's presidential candidates are all too well aware of the importance that their country attaches to Africa and the former colonies. In the middle of a domestic election campaign, Emmanuel Macron has a lot of work to do. Views on the whys and wherefores of France's Africa policy differ hugely. Incumbent French President Emmanuel Macron promised change in 2017. How much of his policy change has been achieved or realized is a task Macron must face if he wishes trust from voters. It is worthy to mention that France's presence in Africa is focused largely on its former colonies. During a painful process of decolonization in the 1960s and 1970s, the Grande Nation never lost sight of its own interest. Use of the French language in the former French territories remained obligatory. There are still two currency unions in existence, the West African franc CFA and the Central African franc CFA, to which a total of 15 African states belong. Currency reserves are held in France's central bank. It is open to dispute whether the CFA offers greater advantages to France or the African states. What are some of the strong links of France in Africa we need to know? French corporations such as the construction company Bolloré, the oil giant Total, and the telecoms group Orange maintain a massive presence in the ex-colonies. Stefan Brunet, an expert on Franco-African relations at the German Council on Foreign Relations in Berlin, believes nonetheless that French influence in Africa may be waning slightly, but it is still very much in evidence. There are still strong links between Paris and the former colonies, he said. French companies import commodities from many West and Central African countries, such as uranium ore from Niger and Gabon or cocoa from Ivory Coast. About 9,000 French soldiers are stationed in those countries. Their mandate is to fight terrorists and train African troops. France is faced with a task here, the growing European Union role. It costs France a lot of money to maintain its role as a major player in Africa. Military interventions are not cheap, neither is the development aid which France dispatches to Africa. France has its own domestic economic problems and is therefore finding it increasingly difficult to finance its African operations. Another factor is that the 28-nation European Union, of which France is a member, is becoming more active in Africa. The impact on France's own national policy on Africa could be profound, said Stéphane Brunet. It would mean that part of the Parisian political elites would lose the means to exert influence, and I do not think that they would be prepared to accept that, he said. Several presidents and presidential candidates have promised to reform France's policy on Africa and to move from a position of dominance to that of a partner amongst equals. In practice, however, such promises have changed very little. African politicians, meanwhile, can be heard telling their citizens that their respective countries need to be less dependent on France, the former colonial power. One example was President Alpha Condé of Guinea-Conakry has suffered a coup d'etat who currently holds the presidency of the 55-nation African Union. We are still closely associated with former colonial power. Let's cut the umbilical cord, Condé said defiantly. But 2 weeks later, Condé visited Paris and thanked President Hollande for doing so much for Africa. That's politics for you. With this observation, you can now understand the complexity involved in the French relationship with Africa. We understand that some Ambazonians may be expecting that a change of power in France could also bring a change in the way France responds towards the Cameroons, especially the ongoing war. But that again is complex. According to the unconfirmed intelligence, which says La République de Cameroon and France are purportedly forcing 38 Ambazonian chiefs and fawns to attend a 4-day conference in France in order to sign a deal for one and indivisible Cameroon that shall serve as a treaty of union between the two nations. Ambazonians reacting on social media say that it is null and void, dead on arrival. But is that even feasible? Even if it is done in defiance of Resolution 1608-15, Resolution 1514 of the UN Charter, Ambazonians say it won't change firepower on the home front. The never-again generation of Ambazonia is more determined. Star Smart reporting for Undaunted ABC Amba.
And before we bring you the sports report, this is just to inform you that exclusive discussion with Tower Party King featuring SOS Frank comes up immediately after the news. Do well to stay by. And now to sports. Liverpool are finally on the verge of agreeing a new contract with Salah. In the English Premier League, there will be 2 games coming up. And in cricket, Women's World Cup final, Australia outclassed England to take title. India Premier League, Jos Buttler hits century as Rajasthan Royals beat Mumbai Indians. Gab Ellison has more on this sports report.
World Sports. Liverpool are finally on the verge of agreeing a new contract with Salah. Liverpool are set to finally clinch an agreement with star forward Mo Salah to extend his contract at Anfield after a lengthy impasse, according to reports. The Reds have been left in a stalemate in negotiations with the Egyptian, who is believed to have rejected a £400,000 a week offer from the club in December. And Salah, widely considered as one of the world's best players, has a deal until the end of next season with the club. But talks with Liverpool reportedly broke down last month, clouding uncertainty over his future. The 29-year-old has reportedly been looking for a salary in the range of £500,000 a week that will put him in the same bracket as Manchester United's Cristiano Ronaldo. But he has now had a change of heart and is ready to compromise with the club's hierarchy. That's according to the Mirror, who believes Salah is on the brink of agreeing a new contract that will see him end his career at Anfield. Liverpool officials were left fearing the worst after the latest setback in talks with Salah concerned he could end up running his contract down until summer 2023 before walking away as a free agent, the report adds. League matches. In the English Premier League, there will be two games coming up. West Ham United will be playing host to relegation-threatened Everton, while top four chaser Tottenham Hotspur will exchange lessons with Newcastle United. In the Italian Serie A, Atalanta will be playing host to title contenders Napoli. Udinese and Cagliari will go head-to-head. Sampdoria will take on Jose Mourinho's AS Roma. There will be a mouth-watering encounter when Juventus will be playing host to Inter Milan at the Allianz Arena. In the Spanish La Liga, Real Betis will lock horns with Osasuna. Granada will battle things out with Rayo Vallecano. Valencia will take on Cadiz. There will be a must-watch encounter at Camp Nou when FC Barcelona play host to Sevilla. A win from FC Barcelona might see them leapfrog Sevilla to the second position. Lastly, in the German Bundesliga, Augsburg will battle things out with Wolfsburg, while Borussia Mönchengladbach will be playing host to Mainz. Cricket. Women's World Cup Final. Australia outclass England to take title. Australia underlined their status as the premier international sports team on the planet by outclassing England to win the Women's World Cup. The Australians shattered records in Christchurch on their way to adding 50-over title to the T20 World Cup and Ashes crowns they already hold. Alyssa Healy crushed an astonishing 170 from 138 balls, the highest score in either a women's or men's World Cup final. Her partnership with 160 with Rachel Hines and Australians' total of 356.5 are also women's final bests, the latter a record for any team against England. It was a disappointing end to an England turnaround that saw them reach the final despite losing their first three games of the tournament. Meanwhile, awesome Australia were crowned world champions for the seventh time, a perfect record of 9 wins from 9 matches. Pakistan versus Australia. Babar Azam dominates as hosts win ODI series. Babar Azam scored his second century in 2 matches as Pakistan beat Australia by 9 wickets in the third one-day international to win the series 2-1. The Pakistan captain followed Thursday's impressive 114 in the second ODI with an unbeaten 105 on Saturday. Australia were bowled out for 210 in the first innings, with Alex Carey top scoring on 56. The hosts lost Fakhar Zaman for 17 before Babar and Imam Ulaq shared a 190-run partnership to seal victory. And following their excellent win with 6 balls remaining to level the series in the second ODI, Pakistan won the toss and elected to bowl first. The decision quickly rewarded an Aussie openers Travis Head and Aaron Finch, both failed for Dogs. Carey and Sean Abbott offered some resistance, but the hosts were bowled out with more than 8 overs of their innings remaining. Marnus Labuschagne took a terrific diving catch to remove Fakhar off the bowling of Nathan Ellis before Babar and Imam picked up where they left off from the previous game. Imam made an unbeaten 89 with 6 fours and 1 6, while Babar hit 12 fours as Australia failed to find a breakthrough. Gab Ellison on the Sports News for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
And with that report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, here is a recap of our major stories. At Presbyterian Church in Yinji of Momo County, on the 3rd of April 2022, military thugs from neighboring La Republic de Cameroon opened fire on parishioners as they worshipped. Tonight, we told you that the president of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikomesako, in response to carnage in Bui, has shown unwavering determination against occupational forces and enablers of the struggle. Daybreak in Ambazonia, Amba War draft, the final battles, the conviction of many Ambazonia is a report we also brought tonight. It would appear La Republic de Cameroon is plotting to neutralize the design of Ambazonia's 3 geopolitical zones. Also tonight, we told you that unconfirmed reports has it that France now seeks to lobby Ambazonia traditional rulers as a means to stay the Franco-Cameroon hegemony in Ambazonia. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news Untold stories. I am Onyi Opala. I will leave you with ABC Amber TV images. Thanks for watching.
And let them take care of your problems. Don't you hate it when that happens to you?